Welcome everyone to our event. As you probably know, it's Dismantling Diet Culture. It's in collaboration with Cafe and Women's Mental Health Talk. So Cafe is from UFT. They're going to be talking a little bit more about what they do and who they are as we go forward. And I'm from Women's Mental Health Talk.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. I'm excited to be here. My name is Natalie and I'm a psychotherapist living and working in Toronto. I specialize in disordered eating and eating disorders. And you might know me from my Instagram, Wake Up and Smell the Rose, where I talk about recovering from dieting and disordered eating. And I talk about body image and self-care. And I also share some fun, easy recipes. So diet culture, it's a whole system of beliefs and social behavior that values body weight and appearance more than health and well-being. It worships thinness. It equates thinness to health and moral virtue. It encourages us to spend a massive amount of time, energy, effort, and money trying to change our body in the name of health, but also in the name of improving the way that our bodies look to fit a certain standard. It also demonizes certain foods and ways of eating while glorifying other foods that are seen as healthier. Diet culture involves, it's not only just about food, it's about restrictive diets, but it's also about weight loss apps and programs. It's about the promotion of wellness products and supplements, rules, numbers, and formulas, and unrealistic food and body ideals. So what are eating disorders? Eating disorders are serious psychological and psychiatric illnesses that usually start in childhood and youth. They involve a high level of psychological distress, risks of long-term mental illness, medical complications, increased risk of premature death due to medical complications and/or increased risk of suicide. The high risk of recurrence and longevity, so they don't usually resolve on their own, and they most often require some type of treatment. If untreated, they can negatively impact health and quality of life for the entire lifespan. Eating disorders have one of the highest impacts on health-related quality of life of all psychiatric disorders. So how do diets resemble disordered eating? So if you look at what diet culture promotes, so in diet culture, you'll see a lot of weigh-ins and weight loss, and an eating disorder behavior is obsessive weighing. So one might weigh themselves multiple times a day or every day, hoping that the number doesn't, or experiencing severe anxiety if the number changes. Then there's calorie-focused recipes and meal plans that you'll see promoted by diet culture. And a common ED behavior is obsessive calorie counting and tracking. Then there's transformation photos that you'll see all over social media. A really common behavior in disordered eating and eating disorders is body checking. So this can be done either in the form of weighing or pinching body fat or skin, or taking pictures, daily pictures to notice changes, checking in the mirror frequently. Then diet culture is, promoting fat shaming and this, must burn fat phobia ideology, which, is correlated with common ED behaviors, that intense fear of weight gain and fat phobia. Another thing that diet culture promotes are cheat days, and that's sort of consistent with binge eating, with this sort of all or nothing mindset that, I have to eat all of my cheat foods now so that I can go back on the diet tomorrow. Another diet culture thing is no rest days, or sort of this intense glorification of exercise. And a common ED behavior is compulsive exercise, where a person can experience a lot of distress around missing a day of exercise. And then calorie and food restriction and chronic restriction. So the last thing I wanted to mention about this connection between diet culture and disordered eating is this black and white thinking pattern. So it's also known as all or nothing thinking, and it's when we see things as black or white. We don't really integrate the positive and negative qualities of food and body into a cohesive, realistic whole. So foods are seen as either all good or all bad. You know, we're choosing only healthy foods or unhealthy foods. We're being on a rigid diet, otherwise feeling like we have no control at all. That's common when you've been on a diet for a long time. Being thin and toned, or else being viewed as unhealthy or attractive. So realistically, there's always a gray area. There's no right or wrong way to eat. Our eating patterns should be diverse, just as body types are realistically diverse.
My name is Laura Arsenault. I am the president of Women's Mental Health Talks. I have been for the last 2 years. I started out as a support group facilitator, and I've facilitated over 40 support groups. And I started the eating disorder support group within Women's Mental Health Talks. I am a French Indigenous woman from New Brunswick, so I am far away from home, but I love this city. And I am an eating disorder survivor, trauma and abuse survivor, and I also live with bipolar disorder. That's just a little bit about me before we get going. So the first question, who gets eating disorders? So as you think about that, I'll let you know it's a trick question because everybody gets eating disorders. So yes, women are overrepresented in the research and in clinical settings, but men and non-binary people also suffer. We just struggle with getting the proper representation from those communities because they often have struggled with trusting systems that are supposed to be there to diagnose and help people. There is a culture a lot surrounding men where they don't speak about their emotions as much. They don't come forward with any sort of disordered eating behaviors because they might seem not manly or not seen as something that men struggle with. We're going to talk about setting boundaries. So Natalie definitely touched on this a bit, but I think that there is something so important to setting boundaries and so necessary when we're talking about eating and diets and diet culture because it's so ingrained in everything that we do. So basically, there's quite a few things you can do, but I'm going to focus them around the eating disorder and especially the diet culture and how to protect yourself out in the world. So first, practice saying no. Definitely identify the people that you have a hard time saying no to, or maybe certain dieting behaviors that you have a hard time to say no to, and just bring them to your awareness. Social media boundaries, definitely unfollow accounts, anything that you can do to assess how this person feels, how this person makes you feel. So if someone posts something and you find yourself observing their photos for multiple minutes, zooming in on their body or zooming in on their face and kind of engaging in these obsessive behaviors, or if you see photos of them and it makes your self-esteem kind of plummet, or afterwards you engage in some of the body checking behaviors or purge, or engage in emotional eating, any sort of these reactions to someone's body or someone's post, then definitely consider unfollowing them, block content, ignore the explore page. I know that's hard, and it's hard for me to do, but I definitely try to ignore the explore page. I know that certain certain hashtags I can't click on because I know what sort of content is behind them. And then I also unfollow any accounts that kind of confuse thinness with health and don't really separate the two. That's something that's really a trigger for me. And then there's also in-person boundaries that you can do. So I don't talk about diets. Don't talk about your diet, please. No talk about cleanses. No comments about my body or my clothing. No comments about the food that I'm eating. I know this can be hard and it can be really weird to just be like, please don't comment on my body. Please don't comment on my food. And especially with family members, they can feel like they have some sort of right to talk about your body because they're your family. But if you just, find it within yourself to say no, and if you can't verbally say no, maybe you can leave the room, leave the situation. When I'm in a group and diet talk comes up, I know I just have to leave the conversation for 20 minutes and then I'll come back later. So that's something that I really do. Starting them, please don't. I would appreciate it if you, so trying to phrase it in a way that your boundary is a request helps people, but your firm tone makes it more affirmative. So that's just something with in person. And then figure out what your triggers are. I have family members who are triggers. I have certain people who are triggers. To me, seeing anyone wear those slimming like corsets when they're working out, I can't follow anyone who promotes that, who promotes those dieting suckers, who promotes skinny teas. It doesn't matter how long I've loved this person or followed this person, that is a boundary for me. And unfortunately, I've had to unfollow some people that I really loved because they wore those, slimming corset things that everybody wears. Those are just some triggers for me, and it might help you kind of think about what your triggers are.
And I just added some resources here, free resources. So NEDIC is a National Eating Disorder Institution of Canada. This is the GTA's helpline. It has lots of information and support. These are websites. So there's nedic.ca, the National Eating Association, NEDA. And then balancedtx.com, they have, if you're contemplating recovery, they have free webinars every week, tons of support and resources. And here are a couple of apps that help people with disorder eating.
Our socials as well. So if you want to be added to our emailing list or follow up on our events, be sure to follow us on Instagram. That's where we're the most active. And if you want to be added onto the mailing list, you can DM us your preferred email.
If you're in STEM, or if you're just really interested in food science in general, then please message Cafe. You can either DM us at UFT Cafe, you can email us